Perth is now regularly protesting. If you're tuned in from Perth, I'd like to wish you congratulations. When the people are left to their own devices to protest and express their strong disagreement against the government, they come out in numbers, people from all walks of life. In Perth, it appears the police haven't been so bad. Here in Victoria, the police have, at least for now, all but crushed the protest movement. And that's just what happens when large amounts of people are shot at with rubber bullets and abused and assaulted time and time again. The protest movement, I'm sure, will be back in Melbourne, but it's been a little bit quiet. Which just goes to show, we look around the world, when populations are left free to protest, we see the biggest protests against these corona policies to the likes of which we've never seen before, and it's global. Now, all of these people are not crazy, they're not so-called anti-vaxxers. They're just opposed to this very insidious, sick agenda that has been unleashed upon us since 2020. So Perth did a great job. I've got a little clip here, a bit of footage from the speeches. It goes for less than a minute. I'm going to play that for you now, and then we are bringing on our own Western Australian correspondent, Matt Dillon, to give us a bit of a recap. So I'm going to play you the highlights.
Stand by your guns, FIFO people, because there are so many people out there that are going to stop and stand with you. They're going to start threatening that you're not going to be able to get paid and you're not going to get your entitlement.
This injection will not prevent COVID disease. It will not prevent you getting it. It will not prevent you dying from it. And it will not prevent transmission of the disease in the community. So I want you to ask every employer why they are implementing an injection that doesn't prevent disease.
I would like to talk to the police officers, who I will call the jailers with a G. Will you stand by this? Will you repeat what we've seen in Hong Kong at the hands of the Chinese Communist Party?
Yes. Yeah, they will.
Will you do the same thing that we've seen in Victoria, in my home state?
Down with the clown! 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 Ladies and gentlemen,
Come out!
Yes!
Come on down!
All right, great job, Perth. Keep fighting, keep standing up. Mark McGowan is unhinged and needs to be stopped without any stretch of the imagination. The man needs to be voted out of Parliament. Now, I've got an interview that I conducted a little bit earlier today with Matt Dillon. I'm going to play that for you right now. Goes for about 7 minutes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here once again by our Western Australian correspondent, Matt Dillon. Matt, welcome back to MCJ Report. Now, from my understanding, there's been at least 3 rallies in Perth over the past 7 days. Would you mind talking to us a little bit about these rallies and what are the main things that people are concerned about?
Okay, Morgan. So last Wednesday, Mark McGowan announced a overarching mandate upon about 1 million workers in Western Australia. So that day at 3:30, a snap protest was done for Dundas House, which Mark McGowan has his offices and that in. Probably had a couple hundred people turn up that day. A lot of very personal stories of how these mandates are going to affect the workers across our state. Thursday, we had another protest, again at Dundas House, and on Friday, another one at Parliament House. Each day, it grew, so more and more people. And we're having another protest this Wednesday, which corresponds with Parliament voting on the extension of the state of emergency powers here. So,
sounds very reminiscent of what we've been through in Victoria, and we see here in Victoria now the Daniel Andrews government seeking permanent pandemic legislation. So I'm sure that Mark McGowan will be paying attention very closely. Now, Matt, could you tell us a little bit about the nature of people who've been attending these rallies in terms of work? Where do you think these people are from in terms of industry, demographics, and things like that?
Well, we've got nurses, FIFO guys, police. You can basically name any profession that's been mandated, and that will be turning up to the rallies. Mate, people are in despair. I've got so many people on my page contacting me and asking me what they should be doing. He's mandated, like casual workers, take my 14-year-old daughter, for instance. She's not going to have a job unless she has the jab. Yet again, there's no thought put into these things. This man is just a complete egomaniac who treats us Western Australians like second-class citizens. And I, for one, have had enough. The people have had enough. Mark McGowan says that we simply cannot afford to allow the hesitant or compliant to infect those who have done the right thing and been vaccinated, that these vaccines are safe and effective. Well, we know that they're not.
Yeah, definitely. And we see those two words used over and over again, safe and effective, used by politicians all over the world. It's almost as if they're reading from the same script. Well,
Same playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. We see it. The consistencies are really impossible to ignore. Now, talk to us a little bit more about Mark McGowan. Has he made any reference to the protesters and the concerns that many citizens have with a mandate of over 1 million people?
Mark McGowan does not care about us, mate. He I think was put into police protection over the weekend because there were threats made against his life. Now, I don't condone violence. I say the same thing on my pages. I don't condone it at all. A tradie was arrested for making a death threat against him. So people are angry, mate, and it's only going to get hotter and hotter over here.
Yeah, absolutely. And these politicians, if they were doing their job the right way, you'd think they'd listen to the concerns of the people. Instead, they double down. They up the pressure. They up the threats. Now, what sort of restrictions are Western Australians looking at who refuse to get this injection? What's life going to look like for them in the near future?
Well, they're not going to have a job. They'll be locked out of their place of work. Their bosses will be liable for fines up to $100,000. My daughter's work, they don't want to mandate their workers to have it. They don't agree with it. It's just, mate, to put it bluntly, it's bullshit.
It is. It is absolute rubbish. Now, Matt Dillon, I really commend you for all the efforts that you are putting into this fight, and it is a tremendous fight. Before we wrap up the interview for today, do you have any final thoughts for Western Australia or the country?
Yeah, I do, mate. I'm going to end with this today. It's time to stand up against the threats, stand up against the intimidation, stand up against the unlawful directions, stand up against the corruption, and most importantly, Australia needs to stand up together. We are a federation. We are not these separate states. We need to join. We need to join now. The writing's on the wall. I do not want to go and have to picnic on the street or anything like that, mate. I want my life back to normal. Now.
I could not agree with you more. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it there from Matt Dillon. Now, Matt, where can people find you and follow your work?
Perth Freedom Fighters on Facebook and Telegram page. Just like to shout out and say thanks for everyone. My page has 3,500 new followers within 7 days. And thanks for you, mate, for putting it out there too. Appreciate it.
Not a problem at all. So everybody out there in Western Australia, that is Perth Freedom Fighters on Telegram and also Facebook.
Correct.
Okay, awesome. Matt, we Love having you as the Western Australian correspondent. Thank you very much for your time. And we're really curious to see how the action unravels and looking forward to having you back on the show really soon.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks,
very
mate.
much.
All right, a big thank you to Matt Dillon, always doing a terrific job representing the good people of Perth. Keep standing up, keep fighting, keep pushing. Do not back down. Exactly what Matt said. The entire country needs to be united. We see a bit of a funny game going on between premiers, thinking that they supposedly have the power to shut down the borders to divide this country. I tell you what, that will only happen if we the people let them. I'm not willing for that to happen, and I don't think you are either. So to the people of Perth and Western Australia, from me to you, from Victoria, good job. Keep fighting. It's tough, but in the end, I believe we will win this. Alrighty, now,